everyone. Thanks so much for being here with the community at eXp Realty. Today's a very special session, and I am very excited because we got my main man, John Sellers, in the house. Thanks so much for being here with us today. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, buddy, Jeff. Thank you so much. I am honored to be here, guys. I'm excited to go through this process a little bit and share with you really a buyer presentation that worked for me for a lot of years. And I see some faces. I love you guys seeing you, Linda, Jackie. I love seeing you guys. I'd love you guys to turn on your screens if you can. What I'm finding, I'm reading more and more about Zooms and people when they're not putting their camera on, just how little they're getting out of the presentation. I just read that again this morning. I'm like, okay, why is it? Because we're trying to do 5 different things and then we miss pieces of it. And one of the biggest things I've learned, guys, is when we're doing something, focus on what you're doing. One thing at a time and then go to the next. Didn't we talk about that yesterday, Joanne? It's like one thing at a time, go to the next. If you're going to be here, be here. If you're not going to be here, it's okay. Just don't be here. Right? But when you're in something, be in something. And then we're going to really talk about that in our presentation today about how we become present with people and how we become present in what's going on today in the market. So thanks for all being here, guys. I'm going to give my best that I can. We're going to ask some questions along the way here in the beginning, so don't be hesitate to engage. We don't have a super large group yet, so it's awesome. I love it. I love when we've got a smaller group, so we can just dig in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I tried to make a few slides. You all know I'm not the best at that, but we did a few. So let's see if we can find them. Scoring big with buyers. So who's getting a little bit worried about what's going on right now? Well, I've been a little worried about it for y'all and how things are going to change. But I'm going to talk about myself just for a minute, guys. Not that I'm important or what I've done, but just give you a reference. Some of you know me pretty well by now. Some of you may not know who I am at all, but I've had my license over 30 years now. That means I'm old. Started from scratch. This is important. I started from scratch of knowing no one in 3 different markets. And the truth is they were all down markets. I started in Seattle the month the market crashed in 1991. And everyone was depressed. I moved to Arizona in 94 when it still wasn't picking up. And then I moved to Medford in 2010 and started from scratch in 2011. I've mostly built buyer dominant side businesses. That's how I started in most of these markets. That's how most of you started. The first time I started was knocking on 100 doors a day because we really had no internet back then, really. But the funny thing is, even though I was knocking on these doors, I still ended up picking up a lot of buyers, and I did a lot of open houses because I knew that was the way we get into it. Second time around, I built a business in Arizona doing seminars to where we got in front of a lot of people and built a funnel that came down. And in Oregon, it was really boomtown. It was internet leads. And how did I convert those to get in? So we've taken different tacks. I built teams with buyer's agents. So I've trained a lot of buyer's agents. I've done a lot of coaching, life and business. And many of you know I've flipped a lot of houses, built houses, and I own a large real estate portfolio today. And I've been blessed, really, that Jeff introduced me to eXp years ago now. And so many of you are part of my group, and I'm just so thankful for that. So let's dig in. Chaos is coming. Okay? Do any of you feel it right now? If you don't, either you're really evolved as a human or you're clueless. So many people are feeling like, we don't know what's going to happen. And the truth is, I've stayed fairly educated what's happening with buyer side market and this whole NAR. But the truth is, people still don't know how it's going to play out. How many of you feel like you have a really clear game plan? You know exactly how it's going to play out and exactly how it's going to end up. Do any of you feel like you know that? Is anybody? I'm looking through this list. Anybody think they've got it all figured out? I don't see anybody. What a strange thing, right? How could it be that we've been in this business forever and this change is coming and we all don't really know what's going to happen? So how have people been dealing with it? And some people have just done nothing. So how do we win in times of chaos and change? Now, what I can tell you guys is that I've really messed up in this area in the past. Some of you know my story. In 2008, we went broke. I got so scared that I got depressed. I had to be on drugs just to get my head out of my you know what. And yet I've survived through a lot of other changes in that time. But so I've been through some good times where I've won. I've been through some bad times where I won. I've been through bad times where I didn't handle it right. I've learned a lot through that time. And as we know, things don't happen. I'm going to go through this. Things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And hopefully you grow through those. So one of the things I've found people is don't hold your breath. Oftentimes to change, what people do is one is they're just holding this tenseness in their body all the time and fear. And that's really what it is. And when we don't breathe, and the other is, I almost mean by that is some people just stick their head in the sand. And so they can't breathe. I'm just going to put my head under and wait till it all changes and all going to be, I'll figure it out then. That's probably not the best way to handle it. The idea is to breathe through this and really keep breathing and deep breathe. And I do this even today before this presentation. There was 5 minutes before I got on the call with Jeff that I just slowed down, put my timer on for 5 minutes, and I just breathe deeply to get myself prepared for what's going on. And that's one of the things is we have challenges in our day. When we start losing our focus, I'd encourage you to stop and to just breathe. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Just breathe deep. 4 in, hold it for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. If you do that for 5 minutes, it's going to change your trajectory on how your day looks. And if we do that during the day 2 or 3 times, you'd be amazed at how your day will change and how you'd be so much more effective. So when things are happening like this, mindset is everything. We talk a lot about that in the community. And I truly believe it. And I've shared it with people that, how would I say it? So many of you are great agents. You have a great skill set. But many of us are blocked from working on the 6 inches between our ears. That we have the skill set, but we aren't thinking in a way that is enhancing that skill set. Does that make sense, Linda? Have you seen that happen before in your life? So, and that's the thing. And that's why I encourage everybody that we have to be working on our skill set all the time, but we also have to keep working on our mindset and learning how our thinking is often holding us back. And I've seen this so many times in my own life of where I was looking at the world the wrong way. And was it my fault? Yes, often it's the time we were raised, the way we were raised, the way our family thought. We went through some bad times and all of a sudden it soured us to look at the world in the right way. And so that's why I encourage us that mindset and how we keep working on our mind keeps giving us the opportunities. No different than the people we associate with changes the way we look at the world. If we keep hanging out with people that are not looking at the world in a positive way, that aren't seeing unlimited opportunities, we're going to start shutting ourselves down. And that's why I love going to trainings like this. That's why I loving going and paying to go to trainings, because I get in rooms with people that think differently than I do. And they often think much bigger than I do. And I'll pay to get inside of those rooms, guys. And so many people don't want to pay to get education. It's so great you don't have to pay to be here. Hopefully that doesn't mean it's less valuable to you. But many times, I know Jeff and Lexi just went through a bunch of Tony Robbins stuff that they probably paid $15,000 for to go to these classes that I went through as well. But they all of a sudden start, and the idea with that, Jeff, Lex, did you get 5 things that could make you 15 grand more? You probably got 5 things that could get you hundreds of thousands, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like at least, right?
Way more.
But was it stressful spending that amount of money? Was that comfortable?
I mean, anytime you're laying out that kind of capital, you always feel that friction in it. You know, you have faith in where you're headed. But yeah, of course, writing a big check's always uncomfortable. We hate spending money.
I paid $25,000 to get into rooms, guys, to be around people that think differently. And when I got in there, that allowed me to make a couple 100,000 more the next year. Because one little thing about how somebody thinks. I remember with Boomtown, I didn't know what to do. I started over in Oregon. I'm thinking, what do I do? And I called one of the top agents in the country at the time that was winning out of the blue. I didn't know him that well. I had heard his name. And I said, hey, I'm just trying to grow this thing. If you were starting over, what would you do? And he said, man, I would do Boomtown today. We can't do it because it's already locked out of our market. And it was a time where it cost $1,500 a month, and we had to spend at least $1,500 a month in marketing. And I didn't have that money. But I took the faith that I knew my skill set was good enough that if I could do it, it'd make it work. And we put that money into play. So this quote I love, and I don't know who this came from, maybe Tony Robbins, but he stole it from somebody else. Change is happening for you, not to you. How can we think about that as our day goes? When things are happening to us, they're not really happening to us, they're happening for us. Where can we learn through each experience? Where can we come out the other side? Oftentimes we don't get, what happens is we fight through that whole process and where all the things happen. And then at the other side, we look and go, wow, man, I wouldn't want to go through that again. However, I am so thankful for I went through it because of what I learned. Anybody had that experience before? I think everybody has. The question is, what would it be like if we had that mindset? Like, I know this is happening. How can I say it's happening for me while I'm going through it? How much faster would you recover? How much deeper would the meaning be if you were doing that during the process? I want to see what we got here. You know, so that's some of the things to think about, you know, as we're going through this change right now. So we've got this whole thing going on now with the NAR and with our buyer presentations. How are we going to get paid? Now, one thing to know for Oregon, I don't know, I see a lot of Oregon people. I don't know what it is in the other states. You know, theoretically, what was supposed to happen is July 2nd, the MLSs were supposed to make that change, that we are not be able to put in our buyer agent commission into the listing agreement or into the MLS agreement. Do you guys know what date that's been changed to now? Anybody aware?
Is it January?
August
Sometime?
17th.
Oh, sorry.
Now they're saying August 17th.
I'm so bad.
And that's still not
Oops.
still not a set number, a date. They have to have it in place by January. So, because they still can't figure out how it's all going to work. And the truth is, in a lot of ways, they want to push it off. So let's talk about this change. What's the one thing that solves all problems in real estate? More leads. The people that are going to win throughout this are going to be the people that have the most buyer leads.
Yeah.
Or seller leads, whichever you're choosing to work with. But in this situation, we're talking with buyer leads. It's never going to change. Those with the most leads and then with the skill sets to convert are going to win at the highest level. And I know many people want to resist this. Every single week I'm on calls. And everybody, we keep talking about buyer leads and getting more leads and prospecting. And people always want to say, I don't want to do that. I don't like that part of the business. And I keep saying, grow up. Grow up. And that sucks, doesn't it? What an ass that I say that. However, it is the truth. Now, if your skill set gets better, you don't have to have as many leads to convert. You know, Mike Ferry, when we started, some of you have been around a long time. So funny, his son's coaching now and changing his whole game. But in the beginning, it was always about leads. And I remember Mike said when I started knocking 100 doors a day. And I said, what do I say? And some of you heard me say this. He says, it doesn't really matter. You could barf on every door. And if you knock on enough doors, you'll find somebody that like people that barf on doors. And that's actually the truth with real estate, guys. Some of us think we don't speak good enough English. We don't look the right way. We don't act the right way. But I can tell you in real estate, what I love about it is some of the most successful people in real estate are people that do not look or act like you would think they're going to win. Have you seen that before? It just blows you away. I've seen some of the biggest winners around the country were people that could barely speak English. But they had a will to win higher than most people. They were willing to do things that made them uncomfortable because their dreams and their goals were bigger than the temporary willingness to be uncomfortable. Did you hear that? Are your dreams and your drive and your goals big enough that you're willing to be uncomfortable until the uncomfortable becomes comfortable? Most people in real estate today, the reason most people are not winning is because they're not willing to be uncomfortable. And they'd rather be in a bad situation. It's almost like you can get comfortable in your uncomfortableness. You give up on your dreams because it's easier not to challenge yourself. But if you make your dreams big enough, you set some accountability goals around it, the uncomfortable becomes comfortable. Do you think I ever like dialing 100 people a day? No. Do you think I like knocking on 100 doors and walking up? And I can tell you, I knocked in an old town when I used to knock on doors. I was in an old part of Seattle. And it was mostly Norwegians and Swedish people that lived in that part of town. It's called Ballard. And the funny thing is many of you know I'm 6'7", so I'm a big guy. I was 25 at the time, 26. And I knock on these doors, and I can tell you, these old ladies were home. If I could tell you how many light bulbs I changed, because they said, oh, well, I don't want to sell my house. I'm never selling, but we do have a light bulbs out, and you're pretty big, young man. Would you help me? I said, if I sold as many houses as light bulbs I changed, I would have been a rich guy. But what I found is I got comfortable asking those questions. And it was as simple as, hi, I'm John. I was wondering when you were planning on selling. Some people yelled at you, not many, most people are never. And learning to get uncomfortable enough asking, so I was willing to be uncomfortable to ask these questions. I had 4 or 5 questions that dug deeper. And pretty soon it was just easy. But in the beginning, do you think I liked it? No, I'd rather play volleyball, right, at the beach, right? But I knew by prospecting 3 hours a day, I could play a lot of volleyball because I got the deals done. So I want you to think about now, what are you doing to create more buyer leads? And then skill is going to win. Those with skill sets. In the past, what's happened is many people work with buyers because it didn't take skill. They called in. If you were the first one to get them out to a house, you didn't really tell them your skill set. You didn't do a buyer presentation. You didn't have to worry about telling them how you got paid. You just went going. Well, that's going to be done here pretty quick. So for the most part, what we do know is you're going to have to tell people how you get paid and how much you're going to get paid and what your expectation is being paid before you even show them a house. And I don't know how many people we have on this call right now, but I can guarantee that less than 10% of you on this call have probably ever done a buyer presentation, a formal buyer presentation. You might have felt you did one out at the house. That's not a real presentation. So the skill set to make that work is going to be a big deal. So what does more buyer leads and skills create? This one, I'm going to stay back. What it does is it creates confidence. Think about it. When you have 4 or 5 deals in escrow, how easy is your real estate business? 6 deals, 8 deals? Does it seem like when you do that, all of a sudden more buyers and sellers come easier? couple reasons why. One is because your confidence is higher, and confidence breeds confidence, and it breeds confidence in the people you're meeting with. Number two, it creates a confidence out into the world, into the space. And that is attractive. I know that when things went south in 2007 in Arizona, 2008, I lost my confidence. I had skill set, but I didn't have confidence at that point. And what happened was, and I wasn't positive, all of a sudden, I had never had a problem selling houses. Now, all of a sudden, I couldn't sell a house if you paid me. It was like winning was almost, how would I say it, distant from me. It was like I had no confidence. Therefore, my buyers somehow instinctively knew it, and therefore they couldn't make decisions. Has anybody ever had that happen in their life before, where they're going through a lot of turmoil in their life and all of a sudden the buyers sense it? And it's almost innately they're not being confident with you. But when you're on a roll and you got a lot of deals in escrow and you feel like you're winning, have you noticed how buyers just make decisions faster? Getting those listings are easier. So that's what happens when we get more leads, we get more confidence. When our skills go up, then we don't need as many leads to close as many deals. So as after I made hundreds, and Jeff's made hundreds of calls with buyers, I can guarantee you that even today, if I did it for a couple of days, if I got calls in for leads, I could close at a much higher rate than most agents, because my skill set was high enough and my confidence, and I'd done it so many times that it became easier. So that's the goal. We want to get a lot of leads and work on our skill set at the same time. So while we're getting better, we can work with less people and have better results. So what can we do with buyers now? So we talked about, you guys are going to have to figure out how you want to get your leads. There's a million ways. It's just whether you're committed to doing it or not. If you're committed to getting more leads, whatever it takes, there's always ways to do it. It's just, are you willing to work? And that's one thing I'll come back to again in real estate. I'd love for most agents to track how many hours you actually work a week. Most people think they work a lot. And what I'm going to tell you, thinking about working doesn't count as work. If you're actually working, and now if you're in a training class, that counts. This counts as part of work, right? But I can tell you how many times I spent hours thinking about something, worrying about something, and then thought it was actually work. That doesn't count. The other is, if you track how many hours a day you work, you'd really realize most agents, even the successful ones, aren't working more than 25 hours a week. And the people that are doing one deal a month, most of the time, if we really tracked it, it's not more than 15 hours a week. Because one deal a month is a part-time job, guys. That's a little harder in the beginning when you're starting. But for experienced agents, even in this market, if you're doing one deal a month, you're working part-time. Let's get real. Now, what if you tracked it and see what you could do? So let's talk about buyer presentation. So you're going to need to nail down a buyer presentation. We're going to talk today about what I've done in the past. This isn't what you have to do. This may not be right for you. There's some components you might be able to take. However, you are going to need to have one, just like a listing presentation. Now, what you're going to find is, as your skill set goes up and more referrals come in, you may find, like your listing presentation, I got to the point where very rarely did I have to use one, because I came in so strongly referred, and my experience and my confidence allowed me to create such trust with people. But in the beginning, I had lots of pages that I went through until I built that out. The other is, I'm going to recommend right now, and we've talked about this before, you start getting testimonials from your buyers. And I would like to see some of those in video, that you actually go out and say, hey, and this is a great way to do things, is that you can simply call somebody up, figure out who your clients are that like you and trust you, and try to find some that maybe you got them a great deal, or it was a really tough negotiation and they loved you. And when you do the testimonial, you can really say, hey, I'm in this contest right now, and I have to get five video testimonials in the next, 10 days, or I have to pay $200 to somebody because we're competing. Would you help me? Those are the key words. One is I'm in a contest. Number two is I'm going to lose a bunch of money because I'm going to lose if I don't do it. And then the third is, will you help? Will you help? Joanne, will you help me? Yes.
For sure. I want you to win. I want you to win, John. So whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. What do you want me to do?
Right. Linda, if I asked you that, would you do that? Yes. Those are the three things. I'm trying to win. I'm going to lose money if I don't. And will you help, please? That's so simple. It's not easy. But when you do that, people will step up. Then when you do the video, so simple to say, I'm not comfortable. Okay, if I coach you through it or if I interview you, would you do it? You just figure it out, right? And a lot of confident people will do it anyways. But when you do the video, you want to talk to them about, hey, it doesn't need to be long. What is the one or two things that made a real difference in us working with you? And think about it. So I would ask, I'd say, hey, Stephanie, when I helped you, what's the one thing that you remember? And I might help Stephanie. I might say, do you remember we got 20,000 off on that in a competitive market? Do you remember how we negotiated on those inspections and we were able to get you all those things? Because I don't want a general testimonial. I don't want a testimonial of, oh, I love Jackie. She was so nice. She was super easy to work with. Not that that's not all true, right, Jackie? I loved her hair, whatever, right? What we want is, hey, my name's John Sellers. Last year I bought a house. Joanne represented me, and I got to tell you, she saved me $20,000 on this house in a competitive situation. It made all of the difference. I recommend you really work with Joanne. That's it. That's 20 seconds. Hey, my name's John. I bought a house, a year ago, and Linda was referred to me by my best friend, Mary. And I got to tell you, we got this house and it had a lot of repairs that needed to be done. And I love the house, but we were so concerned with the repairs. Linda was able to get the seller to do almost all of them. And then she also got me a credit of $3,000 for the other things that needed to be done. And now we were able to get all these things done. And my house is awesome. If you want somebody who's going to fight for you, you want to hire Linda. So we're building prep material. Now, if they're not willing to do it, you might ask them for something in writing. I always remind them, what are the couple points that I want them to talk about? Does this make sense? Because we don't want general testimonials. We want specific. Now you can use those in your presentation when you're meeting with them. So what could happen? Man, I got a referral for somebody. What would it look like if, they weren't referred, it was somebody you're going to meet in. What would it look like if you sent out 2 or 3 of those referral testimonials before they came in to meet with you? Right? Big deal. The other is we're going to have to create a list of services. This is something that I didn't have to build out in the past. I'm going to give you a resource to do that. No different than a listing presentation, right? With your listing presentation, you have all the things that you did. And we're starting to see these on the internet now of lists of buyer presentation items, what we do as buyers. You're going to want to start building those out because we want to make this look super complicated. And it is super complicated. We've just been doing it for so long, it seems easy. Then I'm going to tell you, we need to continue to up our skills with education. I've put this recommendation. There's going to be a presentation tomorrow. It's another top EXP agent. And they're going to give a lot of the material that I'm not giving today, in my opinion, of list of services. They're going to look at it a different way. You might connect more. Jeff, can you copy this and put it in the down below? Now, I recommend you sign up for it. It's free. Even if you can't attend it, They'll probably send you the replay of it and start building this out. So right now we need to focus on what we haven't done before and start putting these pieces together. Any questions on what I've said? Any comments? Joe?
John,
You
you're gonna kind of show us and teach us what to do because I'm thinking I'm buyer calls and says, hey, I want to see this house on such and such. I think that's where people really need help on, okay, then what? I have to like all of a sudden say, okay, we need to meet and go over this paperwork and sign this and da da da. So anyway, I'm just throwing it out there. I know
that's great.
I know that's what you're gonna do.
I wasn't going to, but I will a little bit on that. So we're not sure how this is going to play out. So I don't want to really get into like how we think it's going to, what you're going to have to say and what you have to do. But my feeling was always, Joanne, that I wanted to meet people before I showed them houses.
Yeah. I met a guy yesterday. It was a contractor, and he goes, and I want to talk to you about, I always like to have a winter project for my guys because, business slows down. And so I buy a place and I just have them work on that all weekend, all winter. Then I sell it, make my profit. They'll he doesn't want to have to lay his guys off. So he buys something for them to do, which I think is excellent.
That's the problem with having employees. That's the problem with having employees and a staff when you're a flip guy. You got to buy stuff you can't make money on just to keep them busy. That's why I liked working with subcontractors.
So anyway, I said, so do you generally work with a specific agent? And he goes, oh no, I've got everybody. I work with so many people. Everybody's looking for me and da, 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 da. And I just said, well, are you aware of the changes that are coming up? And he said, what do you mean? And so I kind of told him, and he's like, ew. So I didn't, of course, propose that he sign anything with me, but I think, buyers are pretty clueless on this. Most of them are going to be, and they're going to think that they can just, run around agents as usual or call the Zillow guy or whatever. So how do we can you help us know how to approach that and what's the best, 30-second pitch or 5-minute explanation or whatever?
So first of all, buyers are going to be able to not be represented if they choose to. They may choose to just want to go and try and reach the listing agents, but then they're going to have no representation. The majority of buyers, even though they haven't signed buyer broker agreements, have felt like they've committed to a buyer's agent. They just didn't understand it. Would you agree with that? They just didn't understand how you were getting paid. They really didn't care. And we've had all this news about NAR, and a few buyers have talked to you, but I can tell you, if you went out to the general public and asked 20 people today that weren't in the real estate industry, maybe 2 of them would even be aware of it. And none of them really know what it is. So one of the things is about how do we convert people to get them in and understanding those sign calls. And we have to start talking about ourselves as being different. Because even when this all goes down, most agents are still going to be unwilling to separate themselves. Jeff, go ahead and keep Joanne on this in this picture, if you would. So I'm just going to walk you through something. I'm a little out of practice, but let's see if this works. Okay.
Okay.
So Joanne, I'm just going to role play that you're a buyer. Okay. And we're just going to walk through this. I'm going to take a deep breath. I don't have time to meditate before this, but we'll just go. So, ring, I'm calling you, Joanne, because I saw you were on my website. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, is this Joanne?
Yes.
Hey, Joanne, this is John Sellers. I've seen you've been over on my website looking at different properties. Are you getting what you're looking for?
I'm just kind of checking out what's on the market. Just want to kind of just exploring options right now.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm going to make sure that we're getting you all the things you need. So can I ask you a couple questions? Is that all right with you?
Okay.
So when are you hoping to get into a house?
Well, actually, we're pretty ready. I mean, we're just trying to figure out the whole, what we qualify for and what we can do, but we're tired of renting.
I get that. It's a waste of money for sure. So let me ask you, Joanne, if there was a way for you to save lots of money on buying a house, make sure you didn't get a lemon, make sure you were in control during the process, make sure that you got the time frames you wanted, and save yourself 10 to 30 hours during the home buying process, would that be worth an investment of 20 to 30 minutes of your time?
Yeah, I would suppose so.
So let's do this. That's what we really do, Joanne. Most agents today, if you call them, they're going to run out and show you a house because they're just begging to have a client. And that's why most agents and most real estate people that buy houses aren't real happy with their agents, because they don't really have a process which they go through. So Jan, tell me what you do for a living. Just make something up.
I'm a teacher.
So let me ask you this, Joanne. Now, what I would have done in this, if you said yes, what I would have said is, hey, Joanne, that sounds great. So let's do this. Let's set a time. Let's get together for 20 or 30 minutes. Now, watch the words, guys. Let's get together. I didn't say, let's have a meeting. I didn't even say, let's have you come into my office yet. You do not want to say, have a meeting. Hey, I want to have a presentation with you. I want to show you how the buyer broker presentation works. Hey, let's get together for about 20 or 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I've got some time, next couple of days. What's better for you, afternoons or evenings?
Afternoons, like 4 o'clock.
Right. My schedule's actually open for that. There's a little Starbucks. Where do you live right now?
Roseburg.
Okay, simple then. So let's get together at that little Starbucks on the corner. Would that work for you? Is it just going to be you, or do you have a partner you're going to be buying with?
I'm going to try to get my husband to come.
We really don't want to. He's going to be part of the decision, isn't he?
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't really want to have that meeting without him there. So let's schedule the 4. Does that usually work with his schedule?
I think we can make it work.
Great. So let's meet then. Okay, now let's go the other way. She's giving me some resistance. I don't know if I really want to meet with you. I don't know yet. Hey, Joanne, you've been looking around. You've been going around back and forth. It could be a little crazy, can't it?
Yeah, I mean, I generally just make a call and get the info that I need on a particular house.
We talked about you'd like to save a lot of time. So let me ask you this. What do you do for a living? I'm a school teacher, right? So Joanne, do you have a process of how you start your day and how you take your kids through things? So do you have one of those pretty much?
For sure. Absolutely.
Do you do that for yourself, or do you do it for the kids?
I do it so that the kids can benefit the most.
And what happens when that process is broken?
They don't learn, or they don't, their behavior goes down, or, things just get a little chaotic.
And your day gets a lot more chaotic, doesn't it? So not only are you able to not serve your students at the highest level, but you're not able to operate at the highest level because you're not able to stay in your process, which was created to serve them at the highest level. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Here's the deal with most real estate agents. They don't have a process. We've created a process so you can save time, so you can save money. And we've learned every time we go outside of that process, our clients don't win at the highest levels, and we're not committed. We're only committed to serving people at the highest level. And that is why our process is, let's get together. We'll walk through what works. If it works, great for you. If it doesn't, you'll go another way, but you'll have learned a lot. Does that make sense, Joanne, why we do this and why we're different than most agents?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let's get together again. Here's the time frame. So what I love about that verbiage, and I can tell you this has worked with sign calls. Now, if you had a sign call, it'd be as simple as this. Hey, Joanne, let's go together. I know you love that house, but Joanne, did you know how many times do you think when somebody calls on a house, they actually buy that house?
I have no idea.
Statistics show it's less than 3% of the time. Make up your number, guys, but it's less than 10%. So do you like wasting time, Joanne?
No, I think it would be good to just get this thing kind of streamlined and move forward.
So that's what I say with people when they're resisting. Hey, Joanne, first, even before that thing about process and saving time, I say, Joanne, do you like wasting time? Just play with me.
No.
No. Are you a busy person, Joanne?
Yeah.
So, man, driving around calling these people could be a real waste of time. If I can show you a way to save 20 to 30 hours during the home buying process, if I can make it so you will be in control, she'll make sure you don't get a lemon, she'll get the best rates and terms, would that be an investment of 20 minutes of your time? Great. Then what we'll do, Joanne, is we'll go look at that house that you wanted, but why don't we also pick 3 or 4 at the same time? We'll go look at those too. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So see the words that are being used, guys? Does that work for you? It's a close down, right? It's leading, but it's not actually being hardcore. And what you're also seeing in the middle of this is I'm showing her value and I'm separating myself. And I can guarantee on this call, nobody else is doing this. Now you're doing it a different way, but most people aren't getting meetings with people. And I can tell you when you're doing boomtown leads and sign calls, I did not want to ever go show. Now, occasionally I'd work somebody really hard and I couldn't get it. And if the house was really close, I might just go meet them. But very rarely, because I can look on this call and I can ask you, how many of you have driven to a house? You might have sold that house, but how many times you went and showed that house and you never saw that client again? And it happened in the middle of the day when it was inconvenient and it stopped you from the other key things that you should have been doing in your business. So the verbiage that I just showed here, I would encourage you to watch this video again and start applying this, how you could use it, because this takes us all into that presentation, doesn't it? And I love this idea that, because you can use this. So a lot of people said they didn't like working with doctors. Doctors and engineers can be challenging on the phone, can't they? Because doctors' egos are so big. But I did great with doctors. You know why? Because I'd say to them, hey, doc, tell me how you have a problem. Because they never want to meet with you. They always want to run it their own way, right? They want to be in control. Hey, doc, do you have a process that you work with every day? Why do you do that? To whose benefit is this for? Yours or the client's? Well, both. Oh, because if they go outside the process, not only do they not get the same outcomes, but also it makes your day more complicated. So it's actually a win-win. That's what we've built in our business, and most agents don't. That's why most people are not super happy with the agents they've worked with, and they end up not working with them the next time. We've built a process like you because we want you to win. We don't want you to waste time in these things. Does that make sense, Doc? And they can't say no because they're doing it in their business and they're requiring their people to do it. So when you're treating them with the same level of respect and expectation as they expect of their people, and you're coming from a place of confidence, they can't help but slip in because they would be a jerk if they didn't. Does that make sense? I said, does that make sense a million times? All right. Go ahead, Lex.
I have a question. So one of the things that I've always said to buyers too is I love this whole thing about selling the process, not the contract. I like to also frame it within the reference of like, you know, most agents don't cover all of this, you know, go through the process before with their clients. I find it's very effective because then when you do find the right house, when we find the perfect house, we have all of our ducks in a row. We're ready to move. And that's why I have such great success getting the houses that my clients want, because we've done all of this in advance and you are poised to strike when the iron is really hot. And in any market, you need to be in a position to do that. Do you also like include that? Because I love that because
that's going to be
debunk other agents a little.
Right. And that's going to be taken care of in the presentation.
Yeah.
But in the intro call, that's a little bit different. Like when somebody calls in a lead, because what I'm really that's really, hey, Lexi, would you like to save 20, 30 hours during the home buying process?
Yeah.
Yes. Lexi, would you like to be in control and make sure that you have an advantage in every situation when you're making offers? Yes. Would you want to make sure that you're getting the best rates and terms? And would you want to make sure you're not getting a lemon? I love that word. Make sure you don't get a lemon. Because all of us, for the most part, have watched the Tom Hanks movie, right? What was that show called?
Money Pit.
Money pit, right?
Oh, money pit. That was crazy.
Yeah. So that word is like, Lexi, do you want to make sure you don't end up with a money pit, depending on the age? Our process is set up so you win, Lex. Do you like to win? And I love this again. Are you super busy, Lexi? Yes or no? Almost everybody's super busy. Lexi, do you like to waste time? See how I said it like, Lex, do you like to waste time? No. Well, and then it's kind of reflecting on, Joanne, like we talked about, is it, if you've been calling 20 houses, have you been wasting a lot of time, Joanne? I didn't say it, but you have.
Right.
So taking them through that. Does anybody have any other questions on that? But I'm telling you, if you take that piece right there, and I've trained this to many people, and the ones that use it, they'll be using it for years. So I would go back and memorize pieces of this, and you have to have confidence to be able to do what I just did. So that's what we talked about, skill set and then mindset. Because when you realize what I just did there, I truly believe that there was nobody better to help people buy the house than me.
Hey, John, one thing that, and by the way, I agree with you. One thing that I noticed that you're doing, and I know that you've taught me this in the past, and it's something that you do without even thinking about it anymore. Because sometimes when agents hear some of these scripts, they're like, oh, I would never say that. But what you have to realize is that the script is about 20% of its effectiveness. The delivery is 80%. And when John was delivering, he kept a smile. His voice was pleasant. He was very confident, but not like overly assertive, right? Super reassuring in your tone. And you have what Jordan Belfort calls the reasonable tone. Like, oh, it's totally reasonable what I'm saying, right? You have that. And so I just want to point it out. I'm not telling you this. I'm pointing it out to everybody else. Like when John does this stuff, he's always smiling. He sounds very reasonable. So sometimes there's the words of the script. Don't get lost in that. The delivery is also an important part of this. And they go together like parts of a recipe.
And what we're saying there with docs, right, is what I'm saying is you do this for your clients and require them. It must be reasonable. Why wouldn't it be reasonable that I'm asking you to do the same? It's a reciprocity thing. And many of you know me as a pretty strong personality. And it's funny because sometimes a lot of people say, oh, I couldn't refer John, somebody's so strong, like, oh, especially with our EXP world, oh, I'm not going to have John get on this call. He's so strong. Did what I just say sound super strong? Part about being a salesperson is understanding how to change your tone, how to be different with people. And I tell people I wouldn't have sold over 1,000 houses if I didn't know how to communicate with different people. I wouldn't have one of the largest groups at EXP if I didn't know how to communicate with different people. And so part of it is learning to change our tones, learning to change what we say in the right times, not because we're changing who we are. Understand that. It's not an ethical, you might say, I wouldn't normally say that. Okay. Well, is what you're normally saying working? If it is, keep it up. If it isn't, you might think about it. Because I was saying things, and I'm saying things in a way because I truly want people to win. Now, I want clients. But it's more important for me of what I have to say, as long as it's honest and ethical. I'm willing to change how I act, change how I say things to make sure that I'm helping people win. Did you hear that? It's not about me. It's not about me being comfortable. It's about me learning to be uncomfortable enough till I get comfortable so that I can serve more people at the highest level. And I truly believed, and I want each of you to believe this, that most likely if somebody ended up with somebody else, there was a good chance they weren't going to have a good experience. And they weren't going to win like my team could help them win. And nobody was going to care. Now, caring is okay, but often people don't have enough skill set. So I want to make sure we have skill set and caring. Now, the beauty is real estate, nice people do deals all the time that are kind of crappy agents, right? There's a lot of crappy agents that are really nice people. And you're like, how are they doing business? Because they're really nice. That's going to help in this coming market because skill set's going to be matter. So actually for the winning agents, I think this is going to be a big opportunity. We'll work out how all the commission crap's going to work out. We're going to end up getting paid one way or another, but that'll all work out. But the opportunity to have a bigger skill set is going to be great for the winners. All right, so why don't we move on to this presentation? We'll probably run out of time, but we're going to get started on it. I need to look at my notes really fast just because I need to look at something real quick. I'm going to escape from this. Just one second.
Hey, John, while you're doing that, I'll frame this for everybody. So one thing that we're going to do today is do a demonstration where John is going to walk everybody through a process for getting to a buyer signature on a buyer contract. And remember what he was just saying a minute ago, where the contract should be a natural byproduct of a good process, not vice versa. If you're there to get a signature on a contract, you're going to have commission breath, right? It's just like when you're at a listing. If you're there to provide value and they can feel that, then the contract will become the natural outflow of that. And I will also say, just from my own past, John was my very first coach in real estate. And I learned what he does early on. I've seen it executed by some of the best people in the industry, including John and others that he's trained. And this freaking works, guys. Like, you will get these signatures, even in a pre kind of NAR apocalypse world. This worked. People were signing these contracts. So it's just, I want you to know this is totally doable. Don't let it freak you out, and actually see this as your competitive advantage. Remember, every other agent out there might not know what you're about to learn. So this is your breakaway moment.
And here's my quick brag, guys. I don't like talking when people spend too much time talking about their history and what they did, and that's all they talk about. It gets really old. But I'm not in the sales environment right now, selling a lot of houses. That's not where my time's spent now. But I want to share with you that in my best year, I did 50 buyers by myself in a year. And I only had 53 people in my car. There aren't many people who have done more than 50 buyers in 1 year by themselves. And I think I worked 3 Sundays. So I didn't have people wasting my time. It's impossible to do 50 buyers if you're chasing people around, if you're going out every time a listing calls, if you go out and on a Zillow call or on a something and you got to do that. So I just want, this doesn't really matter what I've done before. It's just give you a precedent. It's not about me. It's just to give you an understanding that it does work. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Jeff and Lexi are buyers. It'll kind of figure out who they are and what they are during this. We're not going to explain too much of it. But today we're sitting down. They were referred to me, and rather than saying we're at office, we're going to say it's Starbucks, okay? And we found a quiet corner. And I came in. You guys were already there. You already had coffee, so I didn't need to buy it for you, okay? I might have if, again, I don't like to spend a lot of money on people up front, but I might offer somebody, hey, I'm going to buy them a cup of coffee. That's pretty cheap, right? So you guys are already sitting down. I'm walking in. Okay. And I can tell Jeff said he was going to be wearing a shirt that said cash flow. For me, it's always, I'm the 6'7" guy that walks in. So it's a little easy to know who I am. Right. So I've said to him, hey, I'm the 6'7" guy when you see me, right, with a goatee. So I walk in and here we go. All right. So I'm walking up to the table. Hey guys, I'm John.
Hey, John.
Hi, John.
Hey, nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you, Lexi. Now, how do you spell that, Lexi? With an I or a Y?
With a Y.
Okay, I want to make sure I got that right. Okay. Are you okay with people mess it up, or you get angry if they do? Some people really get upset if you don't spell their names right,
No, but I'm used to it. No big
All right, well, I'll do my best on it. So I'm going to keep some notes through these, guys. I'm going to write some things down because I don't want to forget that. Is that all right?
Great.
Awesome. So, guys, how did you get my name?
Donna, I think, is the one. She's been a past client and a friend of yours. She's a mutual friend, Donna, I think.
Donna Burkhart. Okay, great. How do you guys know Donna?
Oh my gosh. I think we met her at a university event and we just kind of hit it off, and we've been friends ever since, because we met her when we first moved here. We haven't been here that long. So she kind of introduced us to great restaurants, and she's just been awesome.
I love Donna. She is fantastic. I've helped her with 2 or 3 houses. Her and her husband have just been awesome to work with, great people. So tell me, what did she say about me, by the way?
I mean, when we asked her for a realtor, you were instantly the person that she said. She just said that it was, you never had any time issues. You were always really responsive. I mean, it was
It was
all
really
really good.
complimentary. Yeah.
Wow, that's really awesome. I feel blessed. And it's so awesome. I love working with referred people because I find like Donna, I loved working with, super easy to work with. And yet I always say easy, but easy is a weird word. She wasn't necessarily easy. She knew what she wanted.
Yeah, sure.
And I love that. And as long as we work together, she doesn't scared to ask me questions, which I liked, but she had a trusting heart. And as long as I showed professionalism, we did it right, it worked. And you know what? And I also love working with people because I find people like themselves refer other people like themselves. So I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Awesome.
So, hey, I put this buyer book together for you. And here it is. And the reason I asked you if I spelled your name right, because it looks like I got it right on the book, which is great. And this is really just something I want you to have. No matter how this meeting turns out today, this is for you. This has got the contract in it. And I'd be stropping this up a little bit, guys. This has got the contract in. So I would have their name on it, right? Nothing super fancy, but just a name. And here's a table of contents. In the beginning, we actually have the contract, guys, of what the real estate contract with most of the addendums that we're going to need. We're going to have a glossary of terms in here. Because, a lot of times people throw around jargon. How many houses have you guys bought so far?
Five over time. Yeah. Not too many.
But 4 or 5 over 20 years. So it's not like you're buying, it's kind of one of those things like, dang, it's just been long enough that I forgot what I learned the last time, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we got these terms again. So if I'm using acronyms, you're going to get them. I've got some referral people in here. So here's some people for inspections. Here's some people for lenders. Here's some title. And here's some great questions, answers to some questions that I found come through during the process.
Okay.
I'm also going to have this in an email format. So sometimes people don't like this sitting in their house. I don't know if you're a minimalist or, some people like saving everything. I'm a guy that has too many books. I should get rid of them. But I'll send it to you in email format. So if you want to throw this one out, don't feel bad. We'll have it for it. Does this work for you guys?
Yeah, that's great.
It's great. Thanks so much.
Okay, so let's watch 2 things that happened. We're going to take a break here. So first of all, I asked them how they were referred, and I created what we call a triangle of trust. Have you heard this before, guys? Has anybody heard this before? So a triangle of trust is, so a couple things. One is with the triangle of trust is there's 3 of us. They know her, she knows me. We don't know each other, but because we like each other and I like Donna, she likes me, they're more likely to like me. And I pointed that out in the conversation again. Did you notice that? Of like, I love Donna. Donna's great. And I love people that refer from Donna because they're often going to be similar to Donna or have the great attitude to Donna. And that's the type of people I connect with. And so automatically, I emphasized that triangle of trust. I brought it up again to remind them, to bring them into good. And then I asked them, what did Donna say? Why did I do that? Because it reminded them of what Donna said. And when somebody has to verbalize something, it becomes more real to them. Just like when we write things down. So I got it out of their head, and they actually had to say it to me that Donna really loved you. So it's almost like they're saying, because they are connected to Donna, it creates almost them saying that. Does that make sense? The next thing I did was I handed them something of value. So there's a great book, if you haven't read it, it's been out forever, called Influence by Cialdini. If you haven't read it, you better put on your list to read right now. So understand, Jordan Belfort, if you've heard of Wolf of Wall Street, all the techniques that Jordan does work. The problem with Jordan is he used it to take advantage of people rather than to serve people. I want to use all the tools that I can to have strong influence, to lead people to where I want them to go, because I know that I'm doing it for their best interest. That's the difference. Is it manipulation? Maybe a little bit. but I know that I'm going to serve them at the highest level. And if you don't think you're manipulating people, we're doing it all the time. We're influencing people all the time, every day. It's just whether you're going to be influenced or they're going to influence you, and whether you're doing it for good or bad. Okay. So the idea with influence is, what Cialdini says, if you give something, and if any of you are old enough, do you remember the Hare Krishnas at the airports? Anybody old enough to remember that? When they hand you something, that little flower, it was almost impossible not to take it. And then you felt like you owed them something. And Americans are the worst for this of all countries. So if you go overseas, especially if you go to like Turkey, into a rug store, the first thing they do is sit you down and give you tea. Why do they do that? Because they know Americans feel guilty if they take something and don't give something in return. Why do these young kids that come to try and sell something, they're always trying to hand you something before they ask for something? And the goal is don't take it. And we're like this, I don't want to take it because I know when I take it, I'm stuck. Why is that? Why would we feel, I didn't ask for it, they're giving it to me. If it's worth $1, I'll take it. And I don't have to give them anything. They offered it to me. I didn't make an agreement with them, but that's not the way Americans think. So understand the psychology. Right? And the truth is, I'm giving it to them. If they never give anything back to me or they don't work with me, it's okay. I'm fine with that. So I'm giving it with a heart of giving, but I know how they're going to respond. It's just little. So what we're doing is we're building little chinks. Did you see this? Chinks. We're adding pieces to the armor. First, we had the triangle of trust. Then we had the influence. There was something went out, the study. I don't know if any of you have had this, got a ticket, and you decided to go and get do the driver education so you didn't have it off your record. And there was this study where this woman went in and she went to the class, and her son was trying to sell candy bars, right? You know, those overpriced candy bars we always end up buying when they're trying to raise funds for something. And she went in and asked all these people to buy. Like less than 10% of them were willing to buy. Then the next day they went to a different class, but this time the person went out to Costco and bought waters or drinks, right? Cheap drinks, Coca-Cola, what, they're 30 cents, right? And she gave them to everybody free. Then an hour or two later, she went back and said, hey, I'm trying to sell these candy bars. Would you buy? Would you help my son out? The numbers went up to like 70%. Because the law of and so the way law of reciprocity works, it's not equal. You don't have to give as much for the return they're going to give you. It's not equal. So she gave a 20-cent item. They bought something for $7. You can use this in a lot of areas of your life. The idea is when the client gives us a referral, how much is it worth to us? Lots. So the idea is, but we buy them a $10 gift Starbucks card when they refer the person, not when they close the deal, when they refer. We might buy them something nicer, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. They weren't doing it for a lot of money. But we want something to show. So I want to always send referral card gifts when people send the referral, not when the deal closes, as a thank you, $10. Hey, I love you. Thank you so much, depending on who they are. I love you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sending this referral. It means so much to me. I'll take great care of them. Keep referring people, because we want to teach people not to qualify people for us. We want to teach them to refer. We will qualify. Okay. Going on to the next. So I don't think we're going to get this done, so I'm going to keep moving here. So Jeff and Lexi, I'm so happy you're here. And I really found like buying a process, we just get connected in the middle of this. I'd love if you'd tell me a little bit more about yourselves, because I'm not trying to get you a house. What I want to help you is get a home. Isn't there a difference?
Oh, yeah, big time.
And if I only know about, I'm a big part of this process because I've done this. I mean, I've helped hundreds of people, and I feel honored to do it, to be part of this cool thing that you guys are going to do. And I know you've bought a few houses before, but you probably have some big expectations around this one because it's not your first one. Like, you've learned a lot through this. So could you share with me a little about you guys? Like, hey, I'd love to just know how long you've been together. Do you have kids? What your jobs are? Would you share that with me?
Sure. We've been married about 17 years. No kids. We both work in education. So university, Jeff is there in person and I'm remote. So I work at home mostly and I travel.
Wow.
Well, we're renting right now. Yeah, I mean, we kind of mentioned we've bought and sold a few houses before, and we've just been here in the greater Medford area for just about a year, and we're ready to really get our foundation laid here. We weren't sure we were going to stay, I guess, and now we're it's sticky, so we're staying.
So one of the things we're talking to guys, you're going to see that there's a lot of my head going like this, and there's a lot of me, yeah, oh wow, yeah. I do that unconsciously now, but the goal here is to be totally focused on them. I'm not thinking about the next thing on my presentation. I'm thinking about 100%. So I'm going to dig deeper into this if this was a normal presentation. A presentation is typically going to take about 45 to 50 minutes, an hour, depending. We're going to do it a lot faster, so we're going to cut out of this. But here's the questions I'm going to ask. And I do this to agents all the time. I'll say, well, what did your buyer do for a living? I don't know. How many of you have sold houses to people and you don't know what they do for a living? A lot of you. I can tell you. I want to know, so I would have asked in the situation. So Leslie, what university are you working with? Just going to say, well, I work for Willamette. I'm just making something up because she used to work for Willamette. And I'd say, wow, what do you do there? You say, well, I do recruiting. Wow. How long have you done that? Have you done that job the whole time? Is that hard? What kind of students do you go after? And I'm asked, Jeff, where are you at? Oh, I'm at Southern Oregon. You're doing music. Wow. I can't believe you're young. You're already doing that job. Wow. How long do you think you're going to have that job? Right? Like, what's your dream? Right? How many instruments do you play? Oh my gosh, I can't play instruments at all. I can play sports, and then Jeff's going to say, well, I can't play sports, but well, I guess we just need to work each other together, right? So, you can be playing in the band while I'm playing. I really need that. My golf game, maybe you could do a harmonica when I'm playing. But the joke is, not the joke, but that's kind of the fun. So I'm going to get into knowing them.
Sure.
People want to get into people they know. And the other is, the more time they spend talking about themselves, and I may have done a little introduction about myself, but not much. It's going to be because Donna did it. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to say some things during the process. And then so the idea is, the more time somebody spends talking about themselves and the more curious I am, do you think they like me more or less?
More.
They like me more. And Joanne and I had a joke the other day, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about having breaking breads with clients. And I said, Joanne, she goes, oh, they take too long. I'm like, well, you got to quit talking about yourself. And she knows I talk about myself. So we were joking, but I said, Joanne, that's why they only got to be 45 minutes. So the goal is only talk for 45 minutes with them, because then you don't have to, and the goal is don't talk about yourself for 45 minutes and leave. And you don't have to compete with stories. Now there's a few connections we might make. Yeah, Jeff, I play that instrument too. But I'm not going to go in and tell a whole lot of stories about how great I was at it or try to connect. We're not really trying. I'm not trying to build a great friendship here yet. What I'm trying to create is trust and make it all about them. Okay. So now we're going to go on to the next step. So guys, I want to thank you again for being here. Thanks for sharing with me. I know that may not have been normal from realtors that you've had in the past, but man, you're putting a lot of trust in me. And what I found is I want to make sure that I really understand more than just the numbers about houses. And that's what I do for people. So let me set the stage here just a little bit. So, we're going to get into the meat of things now. And I want you to know you really have three options when we're done today. There might be more, but the three are pretty simple. One is you get done, and after we really talk between us, it might not be the right time to buy, for you. The other is you may get done and say, I really don't like this John. He's a jerk. And you don't want to work with me. And you know what? That's okay. I hope that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen very often. I can't remember it happening in years. But I want you to know you have a choice at this point to work with me or not to work with me. And I have a choice to work with you or not work with you as well. And that happens sometimes too, because Sometimes people have unreasonable expectations of me or of what they're going to buy. They want to spend 800, but they only have 300 and they want me to keep looking for houses. That just doesn't work. Time is important, right? And the third option that I hope will happen is you'll get done. You'll say, hell yeah, we want to work with you, John, and we want you to be our agent. So is that fair? So during this process, we're just going to have fun, but at the end, you're going to have that choice. And, when we leave, either way is going to be okay. Is that fair?
It's great.
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
Great. So again, when we start, I love that. I learned that from Joe Stump years ago. Joanne, you may have remembered it. And people are often uncomfortable saying it. I'll bet if I asked many of you if you were willing to say that, you'd say no. But what I found is it takes a lot of pressure off people. And it takes the sales out of the game. And it puts them in control. Right? Did it feel that way? Like,
yep.
Man, I can't believe you're saying this, but it makes sense. And any of these three are going to be okay. The outcome, I hope, is you're going to love me. But every situation doesn't work. And if it doesn't feel comfortable, it's okay. And the other is I may be able to provide some information to this that makes sense that I want to protect you. This may not be the right time to buy after you actually share all your goals and dreams. For example, if they get in and say, we only want to buy this for 2 years, guess what I'm going to say? I wouldn't recommend you buy right now in this market if you only want to hold it for 2 years. You're most likely to lose money unless you're going to hold it as a rental long term. How many of you would be willing to tell somebody that if they want to buy in 2 years? I am.
Okay.
Because my goal is to serve them. Now we get to the next. Guys, I found that buying houses is kind of strange. Many people go out and just start looking at 100 houses, and that's their process. And then they make an offer on something. And what I found is they often do it backwards. What I found is it's kind of like the builder that just buys this house and they don't have a blueprint. And then they just keep building as they go. Have you ever seen a house like that? And it looks terrible. Many buyers aren't really clear about what they want in the beginning. So what happens is it often takes them longer to find the house they want, or they make a mistake. So what I'd like to do is ask you some questions to build out what your dream is of your perfect house, and process and timing and how it feels. Now, I'm not sure we can get everything that's perfect, but the clearer we are about that, the more likely it is to appear. Does that make sense? Have you ever done that where it's like, when you get really clear about what you want, isn't it weird how all of a sudden it shows up?
Yeah.
But when we're vague, things don't show up. So you guys want to walk through this with me?
Sure.
You bet.
So we're going to talk about beds and baths, but we're going to go a little deeper. So let's go over the basics. Let's talk about, so give me the bedrooms, baths, square footage, area. Let's just go through a few of these guys for this presentation, and then I'll elaborate on it.
Sure.
What are you thinking about?
We'd probably like to have a 4-bed because we'll use one of the bedrooms as an office, and the other 3 is, like guest rooms and a master or main or whatever they're calling them now.
Sorry, Jeff. I'm going to take notes. Is that okay?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, no.
I want to make sure I don't forget anything. Okay. I'm not the sharpest tool all the time, so I got to write things down.
Me neither.
Okay? So we got a 4-bed. Is that required? Would a 3-bedroom be okay with a den, or 3 be okay if we had to, but 4 would be a preferable? Which would be
preferable? And if there's an office or a den or something, it doesn't need to have a.
We really need a 4 space though.
Yeah,
okay.
It'd be nice.
Okay.
And then what do you think? Like 2.5 baths, something like that? Probably.
Sure. Yeah, at least 2.
At least 2, but
A big
2.5 or 3,
backyard.
depending on how it's laid out. More is better, right? But 2 is a minimum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big backyard, a kitchen with an island, and a swimming pool. We'll throw that in for fun.
So let's come back to on a couple of these things. Big backyard. What does that mean to you?
I don't know. What do you mean, John?
I guess the question is that you got to have an acre? Is it, I don't know where you've lived before. Like if you've lived in New York, a big backyard is 20 by 20.
Yeah.
If you've lived in Iowa, a big backyard is an acre.
Yeah. So we have dogs, so enough room to just throw a ball, not like far or anything, but just play ball with the dogs. we want a pool if that's, we don't have to have one, but we'd really like one. So enough room around the pool, to still do that kind of stuff. And a little bit of like patio space would be great. So, I mean, I think it depends on how it's laid out, I guess, but.
Okay. I get that. I get the feel. So tell me, no kids, but you got kids. You didn't tell me you had kids. You have dogs.
Right.
And they're probably your kids.
Fur babies.
What kind of dogs do you have?
They're Aussies.
Aussies. Awesome. And what's their names?
Blue and Titus.
Okay. Let's come back again on this, guys. Isn't it weird to be asking for the dogs' names? That's their kids. People with dogs, like that makes all the difference asking right there. Okay, so Lex, I got to really make sure that we got the right space for the puppies, right?
Yep.
It's a big deal for them. Okay. And they got to run a little bit, those kind of dogs need a little space to run. So when you guys aren't, if you're working a lot, it's like they need a backyard, right? So I get that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to spend time talking about the dogs a little bit, connecting again, right? Because again, I keep working to build trust and confidence, not because I want to take advantage of them, but what I've learned is the more trust somebody has in me, the easier it is for me to serve them at a higher level. Because when people are defensive, you can't serve them at the highest level, which is a disservice to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we've all been through sales processes where we're not trusting that person. And we might have ended up with something good, but it was painful. And if we want to work through this and not have it be painful and have them refer people, we got to keep getting to where the trust keeps going up higher, the resistance lowers, and then we've got to be the two people that we are, honest and ethical and loving and committed to serving them at the highest level. I keep saying that because all these sales things, I'm trying to lower the resistance. I'm trying to create their trust. I could take advantage of them if I wanted to. Right? Many people do. My goal now is to do that so I can serve them at a higher level, love them at a higher level. Okay. So, Lex, I know this sounds weird, but I've found that, again, we talked about buying a house versus a home. So if it was perfect, would your kitchen be looking out to the backyard or the side yard or the street? I'm not saying we can get it, but what would be perfect?
Backyard would be awesome.
Okay. And now when you talk about your great kitchen and count island, are we having a great room concept, or do you know what I mean by that? Or do you like separate formal living and dining? What would that be?
No, we probably would prefer an open concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to entertain.
Okay. Is it, if we can't get one, would that be a breaker, or it would just depend how it feels?
It depends on the layout.
Okay. Now, Jeff, you're the dude. Most of the time dudes are lucky if they get a garage. And I know you think your opinion matters, but it really doesn't. But I'm going to let you answer some questions, okay? So what room of the house is yours?
Well, I'll spend a lot of time in the office. But I like the yard as well. I spend a lot of time in the evenings in the backyard, just hanging out with Lexi and the dog. So that's pretty much my happy.
You didn't mention it, but do we need a space for a garden? Is that something that's important to you?
If we have it, we'll use it. That'd be great. It's not make or break because we're working a lot right now. So who knows if we'll have the time.
So a couple things that happen in there. One is I like humor right through the middle of it. We know the truth is guys don't. I always joke, if the guy really picks out the house, most of the time they're going to be divorced soon. I've sold a lot of houses, and that's what happened. Rarely, right? The woman's going to decide what she wants. The guy's going to get a couple of things he wants, usually a garage, and he's going to have one thing that's important to him, and the rest is really going to matter to her. Now, I'm making a generalized statement, but I've sold enough houses to know that that's true. For me, might not be for you. So now I'm going to ask some other questions. Guys, tell me what would be perfect timing. If everything could go perfect, when would you love to put an offer in a house? When would you like to be moved in? And let's do it this way. Let's frame it that because it's January, it's almost 4th of July. Mm-hmm. So I like to go by holidays, right? So the next holiday is Thanksgiving after 4th of July, right? So it's 4th of July. I'm assuming you'd like to be in a house by then. Would I make sense? Okay.
Soon
So
as
it's
possible.
so it's 4th of July and you're looking backwards. I'd like you to tell me exactly how you would have want this process to go. If everything could go right, when would we, how many houses we look at? When would you find the house? When would you close on it? Could you walk me through that?
I don't care how many houses we see. I mean, if we find the right one, we just want to move on it. So I would
Okay.
say, and we'd like to close sooner than possible or than later. So I'd like to say that, maybe quick. So
Yeah, I don't know how long, the loan stuff is taken these days. So, I mean, you probably need to be our guide on that, but yeah, sooner than later is great.
So by June, in perfect world for you, you guys, if you could be in a house in 60 to 70 days, you'd love that.
Oh,
yeah, that'd
shoot,
be
yeah.
great. Before
Okay.
the school year starts again, that'd be really nice.
Yeah. And so one of the things, guys, I'm going to come back. I might take a little more time with this even and get a little deeper. So one of the things that people say, I want a big backyard, and so a lot of times I'll say, or they want acreage, but I know there's not a lot of acreage. I'm going to say, so is it acreage that's important to you or privacy?
Yeah.
Many
Smart.
people want privacy more than they want acreage.
Mhm.
So that's a great one, right? Because gosh, I've been in acres where they don't feel very private, and I've been on a third of an acre. Like I live on 2/3 of an acre, but my 2/3 of an acre is more private than most 5-acre parcels.
Right.
Because we've got 12-foot hedges all around it, right? You guys have
Yep.
been there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask those questions. So I'm going to get into some of the esoteric. And what I want people to do is I want to see their eyes start going up to have to ponder. And when people go into that ponder mode, that is a special place for people, especially when it's about something they want. If they're pondering how they're going to survive, that's a different story. We're creating a pondering about their dreams. And all of a sudden, who's ever in that room with them when they participates with them, I've become part of their dream. And I've built another connection. I know this sounds very scientific. I'm not that scientific, but I understand what's going on after doing this hundreds and hundreds of times, right?
Yeah.
And
right.
Jeff would verify all this from science because he's smarter than me, right? That's why when we go to that's why we go to an event and they have you talk with a person about your dreams or your goals, and then they share their dreams and goals. All of a sudden you feel like you know that person. That's the person you're going to hang out with the whole event half the time if you connected.
Mhm.
That's sometimes why we resist doing those things, because we don't want to do that. But here we made it comfortable. So now we've got through the process. So I'm going to ask this question. So have you guys met with a lender yet? Have you guys done that? Actually, I'm going to take this back. I'm not going to do that yet. So the next is, hey guys, how many houses do you think you have to look at before you can make an offer?
I have no idea. I mean, if we find the right house, if it feels right, we're good to go. I don't know how many, I don't know.
I mean, the last time we did this, it was maybe 4 or 5. I don't remember
Okay.
really. It's been a while.
So just let you know, I'm happy. I'm okay how many houses it takes you to look. But what I found is, because we're going this process and we're getting so detailed, I've found that many people, because they don't do this, they have to actually look at a lot of houses because they're trying to figure out what they want as they look.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the first or second house was the best house, but they didn't have the formula put together. So then they miss it. And now they're always trying to replace that house. I've seen people, a friend of mine yesterday, the guy made an offer on a house. They got it. It's 20,000 under market. But because I think he wasn't mentally ready, he backed out of the deal the next day. Now, sometimes that just happens for reasons, but he wasn't mentally ready, so he backed out. Now he's never going to probably find another house that's good. So by us taking through this process, and what we're also going to do is you getting your ducks in a row, right? That's why I put the contract in there for you, because sometimes I've had people like, they get ready to make an offer and then they get scared and go, I got to read the contract. So here's the deal, guys. There's the contract. It's boilerplate. If you need to have an attorney look at it, you need to do it before we start looking at houses. I don't care if you have somebody do it. We just can't have that stop us and you from winning a great house. Makes sense?
Yeah.
The other is, we're going to talk to you about a lender, because I want you fully pre-approved. Do you know what that means, pre-approved?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
So that it's like making a cash offer, and I can introduce you to the best lenders, and we'll get to that next spot. Do you guys have a lender you're working with now, or are you open to suggestions?
No, I mean, we're getting stalked online by Rocket Lender or whatever they're called, you know.
So let me tell you, I've got 3 names I put in here. I legally have to give you 3 names. I'm going to recommend one of them. And the reason I'm going to recommend to you, and I got to tell you, you're not always going to get, your rates are going to be variable day by day. It's hard to always get the cheapest rate, right? Because of the way it works. And I don't want you to work with an online guy because they have no accountability. But what I can tell you is, and it's not best for you, maybe for a refi, but not in the purchase process. Okay. They're different. But I can recommend a guy, and I send him probably 2 or 3 buyers a month that I refer to him. I wish I got paid on those, but I don't. But what it does is my clients, because of what I'm sending is, it's paying more than his mortgage every month. Do you think that means he's going to have more higher accountability from me and my clients than most other realtors?
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
And that means he's going to win for you. So if he's in a meeting with someone else, he takes my call for you guys because he doesn't want to lose my business. So that's a huge advantage. So I recommend you at least talk to them first. If you don't want to work with them, it's okay. It's fine with me. But I want you to be served at the highest level. Is that cool?
Sure.
That's
Great.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to let you know too, is our team, now you talked about process, our team's set up at that I've got accountability with my transaction coordinator, that really I've got someone that all they do is focus on the transaction so that all the little details, so you don't have to worry. Maybe some of the other processes you went through with a realtor, you felt like they were always missing something, or there was always something you felt like you had to do. There was like something in the back of your mind going, should I be doing something? Should I be doing something? And it created stress. What I can tell you is we've set this up that if you just do what we tell you in a timely fashion, you're not going to have to worry about something's being missed because we are set up to cover everything. So I want this to be now, don't get me wrong. It's like if a pilot tells you they're flying from here to New York and there's never going to be turbulence, what are they? Liar. Okay. We might have turbulence along the way, but I can guarantee you my team and myself know how to navigate this so it's going to be the least stress possible. And when something happens, and it often does, because that's real estate, there's a lot of people touching this. We're going to be on it. And I won't even say the terms, those flies on you know what, but we are going to be on it and we're going to get it done. And you can feel comfortable in that. So when we go through this, what I want to make sure is you just relax and just do what we ask. Now, I want you to ask questions, but know that we're going to be taken care of. Is that comfortable?
That's great.
That's great.
Okay. So do you guys know how realtors get paid? Just curious.
That's a commission,
right?
I think, right?
Yeah. So we're 100% commission. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, they think that my broker pays for my gas. They pay for this. They don't. I actually pay to work at the brokerage I'm at. So let me ask you this next question. Are you guys looking for me to be a salesperson, or are you looking for me to be a consultant?
Consultant would be way better.
Yeah.
Can you explain the difference to me, just so we have a common understanding?
Well, I mean, I guess if the way that we've always done this in the past, when we've bought a house, is we look online, we see pictures, we know what we're looking for, and we need somebody to help facilitate the process. I don't need you to sell me on a house. I know what I'm looking for. I just, but we need somebody to usher the process for us because obviously we're not realtors. So.
Right. And I'll go through that. Most real estate people, well, in a lot of ways, they act like salespeople. And the reason being is they are so worried about their clients being loyal because they're calling 10 different people. We've worked that we only work with consultants, and salespeople, they get paid when the deal closes. Typically, how do consultants get paid? Do you know?
I don't.
Typically, consultants get paid like attorneys. They take a retainer and they get paid by the hour. But you probably don't want to pay me that way, do you?
No.
Okay. But I want to treat you, but you want a consultant. So how do we work this? Because, a car dealer, there's only one deal that they can sell you on that lot. So I'm not saying they're not ethical, but it's not in their best interest you go somewhere else.
Sure.
A consultant, my goal as a consultant, and we only work as consultants and representing you, is that, hey, if you don't buy this house, it's okay. because I know at some point I'm going to get paid, right?
Sure.
And I never wanted to be in a position competing with my clients. So I'll give you an example. If I'm working with you and you've told me I don't want to be in a busy street, I need at least a 3-car garage, and I need a good sized backyard. And all of a sudden, you've called me on a house and it's Saturday night, but it has a 2-car garage, not 3. It has a small backyard. It's on a busy street. Now you're grown-ups. It's not unethical if I sell it to you. But as a salesperson, and let's say I'm out of town the next day and I don't know if you're working with other agents. If you were that situation and you were representing me, would you tell me, would you remind me of those things? Let's be honest. You probably wouldn't, because you got a family to feed. And if you didn't know if you could trust me. I never wanted to be in that situation. So long ago, I just said, I'm only working with people's consultants, and they hire me to work with them exclusively. That means if you buy a for sale by owner, you go to an open house, you work with me exclusively, because I never want to be on that Saturday night knowing that I'm going out of town, that I can't tell you the truth. What I want to do is, once you fall in love with the house, my job is to tell you all the things that are wrong with it, not in a negative way, but my job at that point is to remind you all the things that was important and the negative things about the house, to make sure that it's still going to fit your goals and dreams. Is that what you guys are looking for?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So the way we can do that, and the way we do that, is we actually have a buyer broker agreement, which means no different when you listed your house, you sign an agreement. So in this situation, it's a buyer broker, and you sign this that you're going to work with me exclusively. Now, if you want to cancel it anytime, you can, and it's a normal process, but what makes us different, right? You've probably already got that feeling during this process. And this is a step. Now, where this is going to change, guys, is we don't know quite how this is going to play out. So in the past, it would be, hey guys, most of the time, 90% of the time, the seller is going to pay my commission. But if you decide to buy a for sale by owner, what needs to happen is you need to either pay the commission to me. It's going to be between, about 3%, or you're going to not buy with that seller, or work out some combination. If you go and buy around me, you're still going to have to owe me, because none of us like to go to work and not get paid. Make sense? You'd be kind of mad, Jeff, if you went to work for a month and the university decided not to pay you, wouldn't you?
Right.
If you did your job. Now, remind me, if I'm not doing my job, you can fire me. Does that work for you guys? Because I really got a great feeling. So, and I'm going to close this quicker, but so there's still a natural process here, guys. So that sales consultant, so it's really going to be, guys, when we got together, I would love to work with you guys, because I can tell, I believe some people I don't feel I can serve. And we didn't get into price. I really believe I can serve you at the highest level. And I don't see any reason you shouldn't buy in this market. You want to be here for at least 5 years. You're buying reasonable expectations. So I feel good about that. I know that you're well qualified. All the things are work. We're going to make this work. Your expectations are reasonable. So I don't see any reason you shouldn't buy. So the next question is, really, do you guys want to work with me?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
And the answer has to be hell yeah.
Okay. Hell
Right?
yeah.
Right? Now, sometimes you have somebody, I'm just nervous. Well, you got to walk through that. And then you got to decide. I remember I had a guy years ago named Jerry Para. It's funny how you still remember people 20 years later. And Jerry was he was a stockbroker. He was really kind of a shifty guy. Didn't trust anybody. And I could take you through the whole matrix of trust and all this. And I said, look, Jerry, and this was the time I was like, Jerry, I like you. And he was going to have to sell a house. I said, look, I'll go and show you I'll show you houses for 3 or 4 hours. Then we'll make a decision together. Does that work? He said, yeah. So I went out and showed him a bunch of houses. We talked more. And he's like, and we found him a house, right? And so we put that one on the market. I sold his house. The buyer, I represented the buyer that bought his house. And then I sold her house. 5 transactions, right? And it was something like that. It was crazy. But the idea is, I made a decision at that point that was a business decision. We're going to be making business decisions as this comes out and plays about who's paying commissions and who not. There's going to be business decisions that need to be made about whether it makes sense for you financially. How hard you want. No different than today when people want you to list their house for 1%. If you do it, it's okay. It's your business. Is that the business model you want to work? So you better have a skill set that shows more value. Hopefully during this process, and we didn't do all of it, have I shown more value?
Right.
Have I been different than most people?
Very.
So this may not be the right way for you, but what is the right way for you? And you're putting components in this. And this is really about building connection and confidence and showing people. Now, and you can do this by, if you don't have a lot of, truth is, you don't have to have sold a lot of houses to actually do what I just did. You might not be able to say, I work with a lender that do 3 or 4 deals, but you know what? Hey, my buddies and I, we send this lender a lot of business. If we didn't send him as much, we help him buy his mortgage. If he doesn't return our calls, so you can, hey, I don't have a transaction coordinator. Most of you can have a transaction coordinator. It's $250 a file. Use them. Everyone should be using them. But you set up, you're inexperienced. So, you're a new agent. This is a big team. There's always ways when you're not, well, teams, the problem is this and this and this. They have 5 different people doing the file. I'm going to be totally focused on yours. I take care of it from the beginning to the end. Now, with my presentation was always this, hey guys, I'm available, pretty much 6 days a week from 7 in the morning till 7 at night. And I want you to know, if I'm in a meeting a lot of times, I won't pick up your call because I want to stay focused with the people I'm at, but know that I'll always get back to you. I usually have callback times. And the other is I don't work on Sundays, guys. Now, hey, if we got an offer going, I'm going to negotiate on that. But what I've learned is you pay me to think and you pay me to be, and if I'm working 7 days a week, I'm not able to actually pay attention to you at the highest level. So typically I won't work on Sundays. Does that work with you guys still okay?
Yeah, you bet.
Because you know what I found is if I end up getting divorced, I don't end up with half the money, I end up with a quarter. So I might as well lose a few deals for the people that just can't make that work. And that's a joke, right? Anybody who's been divorced knows that. And they're another humor, right? So I'm adding humor. And I typically look right at the lady when I say that. Men will be more difficult about it. The lady, when you say, I want to stay married and I want to see my children. Does that work for you, Lexi?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, let's get this paperwork signed and we'll be on our way. And I don't like the word signed. Let's get this paperwork authorized, or hey, I just need your initials here and we'll rock and roll. Any questions on it, we'll answer it. And I'm super excited. So let's go ahead and, I might say at that point, let's see if we can get my lender on the phone right now and let's get you scheduled. That's how you control a referral, guys. And when you do that with your lenders, they will do everything for you. Hey, Brian, I got Lexi and Jeff on the line. They'd like to schedule an appointment right now. Oh my gosh, right? Then your lenders will treat you differently. Also, because I've got him in with the lender, there's another connection. I know we took a long time, guys. I hope this helped.
That's great.
That's huge. Thanks, John.
And it's fun. I missed a few pieces, but hopefully we got some stuff out of it. So,
well, I love it. And one of my key takeaways here, John, is that sometimes I think there's this mystification of this process. Like, how am I supposed to do this? And the reality is, and I'm going to go back to something that we're just going to now start troping, because I heard you say it early on and I just want to keep repeating it, which is we're selling the process, not the contract. Right. And by really leaning on the fact that we've got a process, and this process creates clarity and it makes things simpler for you. It makes it so you save time and save money. And so let's walk through this process. It's different than saying, all I need to do is just get you to sign this contract. That for most people is going to create the oogie boogie, like there's something scary under the bed kind of a moment. But saying, hey, we've got a great process. It's designed to protect you. Let's make sure that we've walked through the process so that we have clarity before we get started. That is much easier to talk about and is much less uncomfortable for the client. And by the way, if you have a process, it's true. So have a process, which is great.
Everybody has a process. One is, do they talk about it, and is it good for the client?
Yeah.
And is it good for you? How good is it for you to be driving around showing houses for people to call off your listings and just driving out? How bad does your day look chaos-wise? I'm going to miss a few of those, but I'm going to make it up because I'm going to be consistent in other areas of my business because I'm not being distracted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now I get to go do the things that landlords occasionally do, guys. I get to go clean a unit and finish the things up because there's a deadline. So everybody thinks it's glamorous to be an investor, but sometimes you got to do the shit work. So
Yes,
that's
you
awesome.
do.
Well, thanks again, John. Everybody, thank you for being here. Absolutely incredible. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to John directly. We'll put his contact info on the recorded video. And we do have this recorded if anyone wants to watch it again. John, you're amazing.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, y'all. Love
Good.
you.
All right, everybody.